let's go do the news. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Clyde Plays News. I'd like to also welcome you to 2025. This is our first news program of 2025, so welcome. And of course, we just got a beautiful raid from Kevasib. Guys, if you don't know Kevasib, check him out, twitch.tv/KEVISEEB. Kevy and Raiders, welcome. We're glad to have you guys here. Thanks so much. The other thing I'd like to talk about before we jump into our top story tonight, which is a number of new ships that are coming to World of Warships soon, TM, as they like to say, is the idea that today, January 2nd, we are 18 days away from the Research Bureau 2X reset. That is coming in hot. So if you've been thinking about a legendary mod or a new Research Bureau ship, take a look at where you are right now with your free XP or what line you might want to reset and do some scheming there. We had a question in the chat a moment ago about, should I do it now? Should I wait a couple of weeks? If you have a 2X right now that you haven't used, maybe you want to reset now, let it cross the line, or maybe here in a couple of weeks, let it cross the line into the new, what they call Research Bureau season. It's a 90-day period. And then you can reset again for a 4X if you've got a 2X sitting there right now and you've got enough resources to push that through. So take a look at your Research Bureau situation and figure out if you want to take any action on that right away. As I said, today's top story is a series of new ships that were getting announced just earlier today on the dev blog. And with me in the studio today is Mr. Scott Hurt, who's going to speculate wildly with me about the new ships. Scott, how the heck are you, and how is your evening going?
Good evening, everyone. I'm fine.
Yeah?
These new ships, where do they come up with these ideas?
Where do they come up with these darn fool ideas? Like I said, we've got new boats. Let's take a look at them there, Mr. Scott. First one is German super destroyer Z-57. So this appears to be a Z-52 super, basically. So it says following the Z-52, or Z. I'm sorry. Are there British and other folks around who would prefer me to say Z? It's the Z-52's super friend, the Z-57. It is the ultimate conclusion of the line. Bigger, faster, stronger. And she's got an extra turret of a main battery for 4 twin 128s. She'll retain the traditional strengths of the line, good HE penetration, so quarter pen probably is what we're going to see. High AP damage, which means broadsiding ships will feel the hurt. German torpedoes may not have the highest damage, but the blend of good range, or good reload time, range, and speed, as well as detection, make her torpedoes a capable secondary armament. So there she is, Skada Z-57, 22,000 hit points. I think the thing that most people have been talking about is the hydroacoustic search on this. This has a 7-kilometer hydroacoustic search, and it's got a base detection. Where is that? Where's the base detection? Of 7.7 kilometers. So if you put on all of the reductions in concealment, you're actually going to be able to stealth hydro in Z-57. That's a first, I think, in World of Warships. What do you think of that?
Okay. I mean,
I think it's going to make people mad.
You played more than likely.
That's what I think.
Perturb.
But that's World of Warships.
So in super destroyers, the only one you really ever see is Yamagiri, and then I would say after that Dalarna.
Mm-hmm.
So this is great with those 7-kilometer hydros, because when you match against one of those guys, you're going to spot all their torpedo vomit for your team. That's cool.
For sure. Absolutely.
So
you're talking about when you spawn into a match in Z-57.
Yeah,
you're probably going to be
draw another DD,
another super DD, and that super DD is going to be Yamagiri. So obviously, what a great counter to Yamagiri is what you're saying.
10 matches that you spawn in this thing, 8 of the opponent that you're going to match up against is going to be freaking Yamagiri. Let's be clear.
Well, and there will be 12 Jaegers in each match too, 6 on each team.
Also be, and then Dalarna. I mean, it'll be this thing when it's new, ostensibly by the Wereaboos, but so there's that. So you've got that team utility with this long range hydro, and I think people are freaking. They're like, oh, this is gonna be overpowered. It's gonna be cap contesting, and it can sit in the cap, and it can stealth hydro a thing, and it can It can smoke, do the German smoke hydro thing, even better than a Z-52, and it should. It's supposed to be the tier 11 version.
Yeah,
of that, right.
Yeah.
So that all makes sense to me.
It better be better than Z-52 because Z-52 is a little bit outclassed in today's meta, right?
Yeah. Could you speak to, now? What's it like? Have you played Z-52 recently?
I have. I did the Z-52 challenge, and to be fair, it was better than I remembered it, and I was more comfortable with it. But I think. This thing's not going to be a sub 6 kilometer detection. It's not going to have a hull repair unless I missed that. No hull repair. I didn't really notice when they were talking about it earlier today, the extra turret, the extra torpedoes, right? So that was, to me, that was new information. So
how many torpedoes does it have?
It's going to launch 10 torpedoes.
So instead of, is Z-52 2x4?
It is, I think, a 2x4, because I think up here it said it's got the extra... Is it extra torpedo per launcher is what it said, I think?
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. It says
when I first read it, I thought it said an extra launcher.
It's got 2x5s, but they're only 12 kilometers, so it's not like you're...
Which I think they're 10.5, I think, on Z-52, so that's a nice bump.
It's like,
but no, they're not going to be Earth-shattering. They're German torpedoes.
Tier.
Right? They're going to be German torpedoes.
The thing I'm curious about that you can't tell from the representation of this stupid picture is, did they lengthen the hull to put the...
Is it actually larger?
Or the fourth turret in the back? Is it larger? Because, it gets to a point where it's like, ugh, I don't want to be in those Elbing-sized DDs if I'm cap contesting. Like, that feels bad. And so you better have those 7 kilometer hydros up so you don't need all those Yamagiri or Dalarna torps that are going to be coming your way, because you're going to match those boats all the time. You're not going to be in this and match up against... what's the Russian
Zorky or something?
Zorky, and nobody plays the Pan Asian one. The Sun Pan Asian Summers, the Kunming. You just don't see it. Maybe they do different servers. I don't feel like
we don't see them too often, though, do we? It's really Yamagiri. It's the thing. It's always
Yamagiri. It's the same as a Shimmer spam, right? Yeah. And so I against that. So I'm thinking when people are like, oh yeah, it's gonna be cap contested. Yeah, okay, it'll do that.
Good reload
if it's a bigger hull and it's got these 4 turrets, and you're trying to get them all in business for that cap contesting, well, you're not. Because, from playing Z-52, you kind of stay bow forward and make a smaller profile and just use those front 2 turrets. And you're going to do that with this. I don't know. I bet it's going to be a bummer in that regard. I just don't have good feels for it.
I think the smoke, and I think it's short burst smoke, by the way. No, I'm sorry. That's wrong. 81-second dispersion time. So I think the smoke hydro combination is going to be nice. I think the guns, they come out 4.1 second base reload. That's going to be nice. I think the 8 guns now, that's going to be nice. So I think a lot of that is good. I do think that your concerns about size is an issue. One of the challenges with Z-52 is the fact that she takes damage really easily, right? If you get spotted, if you get clapped, and I think Z-57 is going to suffer that same weakness. She better.
I think it's going to suffer it even worse.
Well, if it's larger, it could, right? Yeah. And so she's got more health than Z-52, but not a lot. 22,000 hit points is not a ton, right? So I think that's going to be the weakness of Z-57. That means, of course, if you can keep her alive, if you can avoid that damage, I think you're going to find this to be a really fun destroyer. But I think it's going to be tough for a lot of players. I'm interested in her, but I don't know it's going to be my new favorite Super DD. Go ahead.
This is my favorite news we do, because I come in and I do this news because new ships get announced. It's the only time I can talk about them before they get into test.
Yeah. This is always fun.
And just looking at this, I feel like it's going to be big. It doesn't have a heel. It's going to take damage. It's going to eat a bunch of full pens from a bunch of better gunboats, because adding another turret to Z-52 doesn't exactly make my blood boil with excitement. I like the original German destroyer line as kind of a hybrid leaning torpedo line. That's how I played it, which is, I'm sure people go, that's what you're supposed to play. You're supposed to cap contest. But I actually prefer Z-46 because the 2 turrets are in the back, and you want to be facing away from the cap anyway, so you can scoot. I always like that ship better. So I don't have warm fuzzies for Z-52. So more Z-52 doesn't really get me excited.
And one, I guess, I won't say counter that, but one nice thing about this is you will have 2 turrets in the back again. but you won't have the concealment that Z-46 has, which was part of the recipe there.
Yeah,
that is true.
So I think we'll see what happens with this. Maybe they'll make some changes.
That's true. This is early days, isn't it?
To me, this feels a lot like, hey, German fans, we gave you the tier 11 Hindenburg. What's that thing called? The Clausewitz.
The Clausewitz. Yeah.
What's it do? Well, its guns are a couple millimeters bigger than Hindenburg.
What's
its F key? F key. What's an F key? There's no F in the German language. Like it's just like to me, it's like for whoever if there's a guy or a gal at Wargaming that's like, your job is to come up with super ships just for this one nation.
Yeah.
And the person who owns the German nation was like, Hanover must be super Kurfürst, right? And because they're just that secondary ship dork. And then they're like, oh, I don't know. I don't care about Hindenburg or Z-52. Just make it like that, but just a little bit better.
Yeah.
And that's what I see here.
I mean, definitely, yeah.
It's not exciting when I read this. At least it doesn't jump off the page at me.
Yeah.
That 7 km Hydro, I saw a lot of people saying like, it's like a small in radar, but it lasts forever. Like, yeah, but it's like 2 kilometers less, and
you've got a 0.7 kilometer worst detection range.
Yeah, I really think its biggest
I think
benefit,
it'll be okay. Or sorry, go ahead.
I really think the biggest benefit to that 7 kilometer Hydro is the 7 kilometer circle around that ship detecting torpedoes.
Well, and that'll be like 5, right, or something, because it's always less than the ship detection. But yeah, that idea is going to be super valuable, especially your point about it facing Yamagiris.
I mean, for team play. I'm just saying for team play.
That's
like
huge.
That bubble, that bigger bubble moving around the map helps the other people in your team catch torpedoes coming their way more. I think there's value there.
There is, for sure. And again, I think your comment about this being just a little bit more of what we had before. I think that's absolutely true, and that makes this a well understood design. Like, I think as players who've played Z-52, we can look at this and go, yeah, I can get the feel of what that might be. So, I think Z-52, in terms of like, is this really like gonna make everybody line up outside the Warship store on the day it releases? I don't know, but I think that it's a little bit more of what people already know about. So I think already, if you've played those ships, if you're gonna like this one. And I'm talking, not so much to you, but to chat at this point. But like, they know, right, if this is their boat or not. And so I think there'll be some interest in this one. One thing that surprised me too was Z-42 that came out, and I was like, meh. It seems like a Z-52 that's more AP focused. I'm not impressed. But people in the community really liked Z-42. They thought it was really great. And I felt like it had similar problems to what Z-52 has, survivability issues, things like that, at least maybe in my hands. And so I think this ship could find some fans, but I think it'll find out just as many people that are thinking about it like you are and going, yeah, what's next? I'll wait for the next one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
All right, well, that's our discussion on Z-57.
There you go.
I'm good to go to the next one. Okay, the next one. Now, listen, we talked about this earlier. I'm actually kind of excited about this one, and you were a little less impressed, and I think we'll see where our conversation goes today. So, Japanese cruiser Suzuya is a Tier 9 Japanese light cruiser that's coming to the game here. It is the Suzuya was the 3rd ship in the Mogami class in real life. Unique ships originally built as light cruisers, but later converted to heavy ones. In game, Suzuya is presented in her original configuration with 15 155mm guns as the main battery. She participated in many campaigns in World War II, including in the Indian Ocean and at the Battle of Midway, and was sunk in the Battle of Samar on October 25th, 1944. So this is a 155 Mogami. I want to hit some of the highlights just in the specs. This is a 155 Mogami pushed up to Tier 9. She's got a hull repair, which Mogami doesn't have. She has a reload booster, which Mogami doesn't have. And she's got a slightly faster reload than Mogami has base with her 155s. So it's similar to the last one, I think. Scott takes a lot of the ideas of a boat that we're already familiar with, pushes them up a tier. I would say the addition of the reload booster is a little bit more than a push up to the next tier, but in large part, this is a 155 Mogami. Oh, and the gun range. The gun range is 16.5, where I think Mogami's is in the high 14s when she's unupgraded, maybe mid 15s after you get the fire control upgrade. So we'll see, I guess, what that looks like. So it's probably about a kilometer, maybe a kilometer 0.1 or something better than Mogami's gun range. What were your initial reactions when you saw this? Because I know we chatted about this a little bit earlier today.
I mean, my initial reactions, I think there's an overarching thing that we can talk about separate from this ship. I don't want to bog this ship's conversation down with it because I have similar feelings about the next ship we're going to talk about.
Maybe we hold that idea, because I think I know what you're talking about. Let's hit that.
I'll hold that for the end, because I think you have a different opinion on that than I do, and I'd
like to talk to it.
I think you have a good opinion about it, so I think we should share both. So anyway,
yeah, cool.
I love 155 Mogami.
You do.
So
I know this about you.
So yeah, and so the idea of another, this is a real steel ship. I like that. Everybody always says, give us more real steel ships. Okay, so there's a real steel ship. Configuration of it's a little funky. I'm sure when it was sunk, it wasn't running 155s.
That's probably true.
Converted. I'm sure it had been converted to 203s.
Like, and it does say here it's deployed in its original configuration. So I'm sure
which
you're
was
right
like 1934, which is like okay, but the 155s are awesome. I think it's an interesting. We've seen a main battery reload booster on premium Japanese cruisers before. On that tier 7. On the Maya?
Maya
gets that, and that's a boat that I think we both enjoy.
That's true.
I like that boat. I know you like Japanese cruisers more than I do, but I love the 155 Mogami, and it was one of the things that bummed me out the most about the Yodo line is that they didn't give it those 155s.
That it wasn't this.
Yeah, they made up these other guns that suck for those boats and didn't just give it these guns, which they always felt good. So like faster reloading, longer range, if that's usable. Main battery reload booster, geez, that's gonna be devastating if you spot a DD and you have these turrets around there. That's a lot of guns to be ripping off with a main battery reload booster and a relatively accurate cruiser.
Yeah, it's a 50% reload booster too, not a 33, not an 80. It's just standard 50%.
Yeah. I'm going to say that's a 50% reload booster as printed here, and it sure as heck won't be in 2 months or 3 months when this comes out.
And that, by the way, that's a disclaimer. We should put that on all of these. This is the very first time these ships came out. They're going to go through testing. They will be adjusted.
We'll see. When this comes out in April, it ain't going to have that anymore.
I think it might have that, but 4 charges? I don't think so, right? Like they might leave it alone, but limit your usage. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. I like it as another ship they can throw the lacquer camo on. We're big fans of the lacquer camo.
That's true too. That'd be sick if they put that on.
They can just take the lacquer camo from Mogami and just throw it on here. It'll work. That'd be fine. But yeah, so I think there's a lot of stuff that's neat about this one. Without belaboring and getting into the other conversation too much, though, I'm a little bit miffed that it's pushed to tier 9. I guess they're saying, well, it has all these things that are better than the tier 8 tech tree. It's like, okay.
See, that part doesn't bother me because I like all the tools. The whole repair, the reload booster, the better reload, the better range. To me, that makes it a tier 9. Like, that doesn't bother me a bit. I guess, but you were hoping to get really that 155 Mogami experience at the tier 8 where Mogami lives, is I guess what you're saying?
Well, I mean, I like it on Mogami, right? And so, I don't know. I think my original comment was just like, hey, those guns should have been on
for sure
Takahashi and Yodo and stuff, and they're not. Instead, they gave them 150s that take forever to reload.
That spin real fast, but do everything else terrible.
Spin real fast, and 15 seconds later, they'll be ready to shoot.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I think this looks like it could be fun. I was looking at the concealment. I think surface detect's like 12.6 on it. So what's that going to get it down to? Like around like 10.9?
You'll lose like 1.3 off for the first one. That'll take you down to 11.3, and then you'll lose like 1.2. So that
okay,
just
so
over
like
10 probably. 10. Just over 10.
Yeah,
rough math.
That's okay.
Of course.
It's not like Zhao good.
It'll be close to Zhao, but I don't know if it'll be just north of it or whatever. Yeah. But
I don't know.
It'll be Zhao-esque.
We'll see. This looks like it'll be fun.
Yeah, 40,000 hit points, 1,000 hit points. So like not totally unhealthy, but not a big chunky boy, right? You're gonna want to be careful. Pyro says 10.2 for the math. That sounds about right, Pyro. Thanks for doing that for us.
Yeah, no, it looks like I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, I think.
I wonder if it'll have squirrely torps. It doesn't say that.
Yeah,
it does.
That's a good question. I want to say that
squirrely torps.
Without reviewing the rest of the ships, I think this is the most interesting ship in the list to me. But again, you know me, yeah. I'm a sucker for a Japanese cruiser. Of course, this should be no surprise.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a couple more here that are. There's one here that's particularly bizarre.
Oh, there's another wacky one that I'm stoked about.
And there's like the one at the end I think is actually interesting, or not the end, but the second at the end is kind of interesting. But yeah,
let's look
this
at
one. This one I think will be fun to play.
Yeah,
probably.
We'll jump down to the German. Is this you took German in high school, right? Is this Blücher?
No, I took French.
You took French. Is this? I just want to call it the Blücher, but I know that's not right. I think it's Blucher.
Yeah, where's Elor? Where's Elor when we need him?
Blücher, says Biggles. I'm going to call it this German boat, but no, I'm going to call it Blücher. Somebody will teach me. If you speak German, let me know in the chat comments or in the YouTube comments later as well. But anyway, this is basically an upgraded Hipper, and they've already announced that this is going to be the next Dockyard ship.
Did they? Did they? That was before, right?
That was before. I think they announced it at was it at COTS or something?
I think they announced that when you guys were in Serbia and you just spilled the beans on it. I don't remember that at all. But.
No, I think that's public knowledge. I think. If not, it is now. Biggles says it was on the EU stream. Okay, so this is an Admiral Hipper class ship, the second in the series. She was among the main participants of the German invasion of Norway and Denmark. As the flagship of the squadron that intended to capture Oslo, the cruiser was sunk with Norwegian coastal torpedoes. I think this is actually kind of an interesting story of a boat that basically got wet by launched with torpedoes launched from the beach, which is actually really kind of interesting.
She was sunk by land-based torpedoes.
Yeah, which I never even heard of until I heard the story of this ship. That was the first time I ever heard of that being a thing. But I guess when you have all those fjords and channels, why wouldn't you have land-based torpedoes if you're expecting a German invasion? She's got 4 twin 203 millimeter turrets. To give her a little extra punch at tier 9, the main battery features destroyer level dispersion. So this is, we talked about this accuracy meta that Wargaming seems to be on a kick of. This is an accuracy ship. That's kind of interesting. And highly improved, but I don't know if that's defined fully in here, AP shells. She'll have improved ricochet angles, a shorter fuse time. That's good for killing small, lightly armored targets. Higher penetration and flatter ballistics, making her a dangerous opponent for enemy cruisers. In terms of consumables, she's going to have a typical loadout of repair party, which is cool. At tier 9, you want to have a repair party in her cruisers, of course. Defensive AA fire, hydroacoustic search with 6-kilometer range, that classic German hydro, and then a choice of either a fighter or a spotter. I think spotter is going to be popular because fighter's kind of anemic, plus the accuracy is going to make that spotter useful. There it is. Dockyard ship Blücher. I don't know how to say this, but here she is. 45,000 hit points, 18.5 kilometer firing range is excellent. 5,900 damage for the AP max, 925 meter per second shots. We'll take a look at these consumables and then Scott, I'll throw it to you to kind of get some thoughts. Damage control party, repair party, as we mentioned, 4 charges, 80-second cooldown. Hydroacoustic search, as we said, the 6-kilometer classic German hydros. In that same slot, you can swap for Def AA if you want, but you won't. Fighter and spotter, you'll probably go for spotter, which boosts your range 20%. And that's, of course, all these numbers listed without crew and upgrades. What do you think on this one? Is this a boat people are asking for?
I mean, wearaboos.
True. The torps, I guess, go 8 kilometers too. I didn't mention that, but 8-click torps.
That's a weird thing I just read too. It has like it has like the torps off of.
Are those like Tirpitz torps or something?
No, what's that tier 8 Grafspee? That thing has 8 kilometers. That's like.
Yeah,
that thing has longer range torps than you expect cruisers to have. I think that was a weird thing to me. I'm like, they gave it 8-kilometer torps. They can't find those for any of their other ships, but they gave them that. So that's kind of neat. The idea of destroyer dispersion with 203 AP that has improved ricochet angles, short fuse, but high pen and flatter ballistics. It sounds like you've almost given it like Petro shells, like. I mean, like, I think when you play it, I think when you play it, if you have higher pen and flatter ballistics, screams Russian heavy cruiser shells to me.
Well, I mean, you're going to have a 205 for Sigma. It says here the maximum dispersion, that's going to be width, not height, is 154. So we don't have the height number, but that's going to be a pretty accurate machine with fast Soviet-esque, maybe, as you suggest, shells. I don't know. This could be pretty usable if you're fans of those kinds of guns. And again, I like these accuracy ships we've been getting, right? We talked about Prince Van Oranje being accurate. Talked about some of these battleships that have come out that have been accurate, like Tennessee. Rhode Island was in that camp. This is a tier 9 with 203s that hit where you click, you know?
Yeah, I think giving it all those kind of perks on AP is going to make it extremely potent, you know, for smashing cruisers, like it says. Those guns are also going to be really good at like shooting upper belts and bows of battleships and
even destroyers if the short fuse is short enough, you know.
Yeah, the thing that's interesting is it's short fuse time but higher pen. So I kind of wonder on DD shots how that'll play out.
That's true. The pen and fuse time. I thought the same thing when I was reading that over.
Yeah. Ultimately, though, you still have German quarter pen, or not? Yeah, the German 1/6 pen or whatever HE. So you're gonna have, so you're gonna have like that still onboarded as well.
51 mil.
But no, it sounds like it might be fun to play. It probably has, you know, I assume it has junk concealment because most of the German cruisers have junk concealment.
Now, sometimes we see a really strong sounding Dockyard ship come out, and then in testing it gets nerfed. You know, we saw Wisconsin come through and stay strong. We saw some changes to other Dockyard ships over the year. So again, same warning we gave you guys on the last one. This one sounds intriguing to people who like the attributes we've been talking about. But again, keep your eye on it as it's going through testing. I suspect we'll see this show up in a few more articles.
Everything in the consumables is going to be stick, right? Like the DCP, the repair, the hydros.
That's all pretty.
The hydro, FAA, fighter, spotter, all that's going to stick.
Yeah,
that's not going to change. Airstrikes for your ASW, that's going to stick. That's not going to change. The 8-kilometer torpedoes, who cares? They're not going to care about that. That's not going to change. What's going to change if those guns perform the way I think they will is they're either going to remove they're going to tweak the pen, they're going to tweak because I doubt they'll tweak that DD dispersion piece because they're going to be like, no, we're just doing that.
Well, that's going to be its party piece, right? That's its party.
They're going to say, no, we're just doing that. But they'll either...
It's like a defining characteristic.
They're either going to tweak the improved ricochet angles so they're not as good. They're going to tweak that fuse time. They're going to tweak that pen.
Don't forget.
They're going to crater the reload.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't forget reload.
Yeah, the number one thing they normally do when they put something cool like this together to bring the DPM down is just crater the reload.
Yeah, and so that's
so I don't know what the base reload was.
The base reload is here. Where is it? 10 seconds. So
no way. There's no way because it's a tier 9. That's a joke. That's gonna be a lot of fun. That's gonna be a lot of fun to play for 1 month on prod test. I can assure you because there's speculation. 0% chance. I don't even have to put on tinfoil hat on. There's no way with all with all that talk about how great these guns are that they're good because that's a sub 10-second reload because you don't need range. You put reload in slot 6. It's a tier 9.
Yeah.
So that's like an 8-point-something second reload, 8.8 or 9 something.
Yeah. Sub 10 is good enough, right?
No way, man. That reload when this comes out, you take note here, folk.
14.
When this comes out, that's going to be a
13-second
reload when buffed.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. That'll be interesting.
And they might rein in the range some too, and make you really rely on the spotter. Because with that shell velocity, you're going to be able to zing at 18 kilometers. You're going to be able to Citadel stuff at max range with these guns.
You talked about being dangerous, and the paragraphs above talked about being dangerous to cruisers. You mentioned upper belts on battleships, bows and sterns of battleships.
Yeah.
Though the battleships and those cruisers, those are the ones who are going to suffer at 17 kilometers when you're slugging these 925 meter per second shells. Now they could also tweak the flight time, the drag, and all that stuff to make the shells a little harder to use at range as well. That's harder for them to change. When we talk about nerfs and why they always go to the reload well, it's because that is a direct, easy mathematical thing. It provides very predictable results, and that's why wargaming does that. Whereas if they adjust the flight time, then they have to go see what players can do because it's not about straight math anymore. It's about how well players, human beings, can utilize those tools. So I think you're probably right. Well, they'll do some adjustment to the reload there.
Yeah,
I think you're right about the consumables. Those are all very traditional German consumables. Those aren't going to change. Torpedoes, 8-kilometer torpedoes are not going to... No. Those are not a major tool for a ship that has 11 or whatever kilometers.
At this point, I mean, most of the time what you see get wrecked. What you see get ruined on a ship that looks fun on paper is reload and concealment. Reload goes up, concealment goes up, and fun goes out the window. And keep in mind that the Dockyard ship, so it only has to like look good enough to get people to buy that first booster.
Well, and you know, like you said,
it doesn't have to be that good.
I think this boat probably stays fun. Well, I shouldn't say stays fun. I shouldn't speculate too much because I haven't had a chance to play this boat. But I think the reload's probably fine as long as it stays 13 seconds or under. Don't tell Wargaming I said this. Wargaming, if you're watching, close your ears. But like 13 seconds to me would be like, okay. If it gets higher than that, like why am I not logging in and playing shill, right? Like why am I not playing something with bigger
question,
guns?
It's an 8-gun, it's an 8-gun tier 9 cruiser that it's got two. See, there's no overmatch in there either because it's 203s, right?
That's right.
So when you start pushing that reload up, you start matching it against 8 and 9 gun tier 9 cruisers that have 300 millimeter guns.
That's the thing, right?
280 millimeter guns.
So if my reload gets too high, those competitions become choices I'll make over this kind of.
That said, nothing else out there has destroyer dispersion with improved ricochet angles, short fuse time, high pen, and flat ballistics. So like,
and really good hydros to keep it safe.
you could give this thing 150s with that combination of tweaks, and it would still be like, oh man, this thing's sitting down the hell out of broadside cruisers, right? So yeah. But so, we'll see. But there's no way it keeps that 10-second reload. That's hilarious.
Keep your eyes open for changes on this one, guys. When I first saw this one, I was like, oh,
Elor. How do we say this boat's name, Elor?
We had a few people try to help us. This is a new hipper, basically. Someone in chat asked earlier if this is the ship that sunk on its maiden voyage. I don't know if it was its maiden voyage, but it was very early. Yeah, actually, Elor always suggests
that doesn't help
this.
Elor Google Translate.
He's doing a great thing though. Let's see. How do you choose German? Chat, did you hear that? No, you didn't. Hang on. Now you'll hear it.
Blücher. Blücher.
Blücher is what I'm getting. Blücher. Now we know how to say it. Blücher. So Blücher is what we're going to call it, or you can call it the blue car, as Grant chose to do. Anyway, this boat, when I first saw it on the list, I said, okay, cool, another German cruiser. What else you got? Reading about it, it's interesting. Now I got to watch it and make sure they don't nerf it too much. But I think, it's definitely one to watch, especially because it's a Dockyard ship, and a lot of players will go for a Dockyard ship. We like to point out Dockyard ships are not free, and they're not full price, but they're discounted. They're discounted if you agree to play a bunch of World Warships and give them a little bit of money. A tier 9's probably $25, maybe $30, depending on. I mean, they're a little different each time. You always got to check your facts, but so we'll see what it winds up being in terms of cost and in terms of performance as it gets closer.
And this is the spring. Do we know when this Dockyard is? Is it
I don't know when it is. I don't have that information. It might be out, but I don't know what it is.
Last few years, they've kind of done like a spring, summer, and then like a fall, and then like a holiday Dockyard. So
yeah,
I would assume. I'm trying to think.
It's probably here in the next few months.
So like next patch is Dutch light cruiser early access, right? So there's like 2 months of that.
Yeah.
And then I think they've announced like Russian submarines are coming.
There's been some whisperings about those that they're on their way.
Yeah. So like timeline wise, that maybe this Dockyard's like an April-May Dockyard. I don't know. I can't remember when we did the spring one last year.
I think it might be March or April. I don't know. I feel like they do one every like 3-4 months. So
yeah,
that means we'd need one here in the first.
It's like every 4 months, or I think they do like 3 a year now.
So I think it's going to be like March, April. But we'll keep our eyes on it, guys, and we'll let you know whenever we get some facts. All right, let's go to the next one here. Alberico the Barbiano. Where's my Italian friends? Because I don't have friends anymore. I mispronounced your name. Oh wait, hang on. Did I skip Gamba? No.
It's after this.
Okay. Italian destroyer Alberico da Barbiano. This is a tier 10 Italian destroyer, but it's actually a cruiser in real life. This is one of the Alberto di Guisano class cruisers. I looked this up in my Jane's books today because there was some discussion in the Clyde Plays Discord about like how many guns can you put on either side. And I said, I don't know. I can't tell from this picture. I looked it up online. Nothing had this gun configuration. I looked it up in my Jane's books. I don't have the right years of Jane's books to have this boat because it was sunk before my newer World War II one, and it wasn't built before my older World War II one. And so
I don't think they got around to building this configuration.
I think this configuration
I think it was a proposed. I saw the drawings today posted on the Discord, and it was proposed in 1938 is a reuse for Guisano class cruisers to make an AA boat.
Yes,
and
so
I think you would have to go to the Jane's fighting ships of World War One.
So I have
the Guisano cruiser like in tier 4 because it's a tier 4, right?
I want to address a couple of comments here. Pyro says this is a fake ship. That is not true. This is a real ship with a fake configuration. So it is a real hull. It really had this general hull shape. These guns, however, were never installed on this ship. Right. And yeah, I was looking in my 1924 book, and that was too old. I think this book was from like 1930, or this ship was from like 1930 or something.
Okay.
And then I think my 1944 book, it was already sunk by then. So I couldn't find a picture of the real boat. I was gonna actually hold it up to the camera tonight, but I couldn't do it. But yeah, I think
I've got those too. I've got that Jane's fighting ships of World War One and Jane's fighting ships of World War Two. Are those ones you have?
It might be in there. No, I have the ones that I have yeared ones. So 1924, and then I have the 1944, 1945 one. But I don't have the like general.
I'll look in mine if I can find the.
That'd be cool if you posted in the Discord.
If I take a picture of it and post it on the Discord.
I'll give you that, Pyro. That configuration.
Guns. That's
this configuration is not real, but I don't want anybody to think that they made up the Alberico da Barbiano, because that is a real boat and it really had this general shape. So bear that in mind. When Wargaming does a lot of this creativity stuff. And so sometimes it's a fine line between what's a paper ship and what's not, perhaps. But anyway, this is a real one, but with a totally wacky configuration, which we'll start to explore now. Classified as so this is a cruiser in real life, but they're making it a destroyer in World of Warships. The discussion that I saw in our Discord, and it looks like you guys are coming to the same conclusion here, is I think it's got a total of 16 guns. 12 of them on each broadside is the going rate. There are some videos that Wargaming has posted that I can get access to. I will try to find them. They're available to us for making videos as CCs. So I will try to find those. And they do I think they have one where it sweeps a camera around this thing. If I can find that, I'll be putting it up on the YouTube video for you guys to see so we can get a better view of what the turrets look like. They did show it on the official stream, but I missed that part of the show today.
Yeah, and I just dropped an image in our Discord and Ship Talk that's
nice.
The projected conversion, like a Jane's book style drawing. I'm not sure what the actual source is. It's from a book, but
I see it there. Yeah,
it's from a different Discord.
Nice.
I'm a member of.
Okay, that's cool. I appreciate you sharing that. I think people get a kick out of that. The pseudo-historic nature of a plan that never became a real ship or whatever. Anyway, so we'll roll along here. So this has, let's see. The main feature of the proposed modernization was replacing the 152 millimeter main battery with 16 90 millimeter heavy aircraft guns. So 90s. And I can't believe they're actually doing this. The project was never carried out, and Alberico da Barbiano was sunk on in December 1941 at the Battle of Cape Bon in her original configuration as a light cruiser. So again, in World Warships, this is going to be a destroyer, not a cruiser, and Alberico is the largest one yet. Oh, that is not a compliment. With a unique battery of 16 90mm guns and no torpedoes. None. With access to only sap shells, which frankly she's going to need with the 90mm guns, she's extremely high damage per minute with reasonable shell penetration of 26mm. That's actually not terrible, allowing her to damage enemy destroyers, most cruisers, and battleship superstructures. So every ship in the game has something that is 16mm or something. So for those heavier armored targets, battleships, you're going to need to make sure that you hit the right part of the ship in order to get damage, because you'll bounce a lot of shells off the rest of them. Here she is, 32,000 hit points. 32,100 hit points is a lot. 16 90mm guns with a range of 11.4 kilometers. Maximum sap shell damage is 2,000 and only one shell type. As we said, only sap shells. 26mm penetration. 860 meters per second initial velocity, but again, depending on the shell drag, etc., that doesn't necessarily mean these will be flat arcs, but they'll probably be pretty flat over the distance of 11 kilometers. 3.8 second reload time, which with that many guns is good. A sigma of 2.0, max dispersion of 100 meters at 11.4 is not amazing, but it's good enough for those ranges. I think you'll be just fine. Gosh, and then again, no torpedoes. The AA is always hard to interpret here, but the let's see, the short range is 81 DPS, long range is 207. Those numbers don't add up to much. But the long range does reach out 4.6 kilometers, which is okay, but not great at tier 10. This is a 10, right? Not a 9? Yeah, 10.
It's a 10.
Exhaust smoke generator, engine boost, and damage control party. What a weird ship, Scotta. What a strange and weird albatross they have put together here. Thoughts? I don't know it. I want to love this ugly duckling, but I think I will. But like, what a weird. I don't know what to make of it yet.
I mean, like, if this was an actual design study that somebody in the Regia Marina came up with in the 30s, I think that's kind of cool that they're making it into the game.
Sure, that's always kind of neat. I think.
Nothing about it makes me want to play it at tier 10 matchmaker.
Let me just cut right to the chase here, Clyde.
Yeah, I mean, like, nothing. Yeah, I'll tell you. Yeah.
This boat looks bad.
I don't know if any people out there who watch, I don't know what channel he's on now, Sunday Night Football with Chris Collinsworth. Let me tell you guys, this doesn't look like it's gonna be a lot of fun. It feels like you're just gonna get punched in the teeth a lot by everything.
Sure.
Like, because it's okay, so they're like, well, but we've made it a destroyer, so you can't get Citadel. But
it's enormous.
So all the guts are going to still be inside there, because you're just going to asset reuse the tier 4 cruiser, right? So there's going to be a bunch of junk inside there to catch shells.
Assuming the armor winds up having similar millimeterage, yeah, I think you're probably right.
Welcome to full pen town, like you just. I don't know, like, and the comment, it just feels like it would be painful to play. I'm sure that it would be. I'm sure it'll be interesting. It's a lot. The whole turret layout thing just makes me think of like, Krasny Krim.
Oh gosh. Although these turrets can shoot both sides, which is not true for some of these boats. But I know what you mean.
I hope these little turrets are 360. There's no reason they shouldn't be. Like,
especially if they're AA guns, right?
Yeah, all these little turrets should just spin freely, because I doubt this thing's going to handle well. In fact, they make a comment in here about how, you're able to get into position quickly and apply extreme DPM from medium range. Careless cruisers and battleships who don't pay enough respect will soon find their hit points stripped away. Yeah, and then you're gonna exhaust smoke yourself and escape with engine boost. But then it says, be sure to keep track of enemy destroyers, because a surprise torpedo strike will send it to the bottom due to its poor maneuverability.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yay. Poor maneuverability.
No hydros either. So yeah, I mean, what's the reload times? So if you've got 12 guns at 3.8 seconds with 26 millimeters of pen, if you grab a hold of an enemy destroyer, you can do some work to an enemy DD. This will be really nasty if you're an enemy DD. What's the concealment on this thing? The detection is 9.8 kilometers. Yeah, so that'll bring you down to 8.9.
It's gonna be like, and then what's Kaba's?
It'll be about 7.2.
It's gonna be like Kaba concealment.
Yeah, it'll be 7.2-esque. Somebody might have done the math, chat, if you guys know. But so it won't be sneaky. It does have exhaust smoke, which is fun. And then the engine boost is a 15% engine boost. What's the speed? Max speed is 39. So this thing's gonna rip around. Okay. Is this gun Paolo?
That's exactly what I think it is.
It's gun Paolo.
I think it's gun Paolo.
We knew this.
I think you move up. You move up, you get spotted, you pop that smoke, you go ham with those guns on a DD or a cruiser or something with the main battery reload booster, and you just do a ton of sap damage.
Yeah.
And then you die.
Well,
because the exhaust smoke ends, and you're in a cruiser, and then you die, and then you go cool, and you hit next battle, and you do it again.
So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it might be to be on a side of a map with islands. Sorry if you're playing, what's that map that has no islands? Not ocean, but Okinawa. But if you're in an opportunity where you can dart in and out of islands, you can use the smoke on the way out. Yeah. Rather than, and that's what Warco just dropped this in chat, right? So if you get surprised, oh no, and then you get into a gunfight and use the smoke to run away at 50 knots. It's very interesting. Very interesting.
There's a cruiser in test right now called the Gonzaga. That's what is it, like a tier 9?
I'm interested to see where you're going with this.
Well, no, but I'm just saying it's a cruiser. It's a tier 9 Italian cruiser that has it's like a Brindisi hull, but it has the guns off of Regolo, right? So it's a cruiser with destroyer guns. But it has relatively short ranges and kind of concealment stuff, and maybe a similar playstyle idea. It seems like somebody.
But
I'm just thinking. The only place I'm going, I can't talk about Gonzaga other than that. But what I'm saying is, like, I feel like there's somebody like, over in Serbia that's like, what if we just started?
I mean, there's definitely.
What if we took a cruiser and we slammed destroyer guns on it? And then somebody else said, oh yeah, what if we take the secondaries off of a Lepanto and we jam those on this thing? What if?
I love it.
There's going to be, a super ship version of this that's going to be,
welcome to Super Leone.
It's gonna be. We've put 45 Italians on the deck with Tommy guns, and they're just spraying them in every direction.
Yeah. I don't know. I think this boat's weird. You guys know me. I love a good weird boat. Let's go.
Yeah.
This boat's weird. I'll figure out what I have to do to get it. If it's in Research Bureau, I'll get research points. Whatever. We're gonna do it.
This isn't gonna be Research Bureau. This is too unique and interesting. This will be in a special event.
Well, we'll see.
During some kind of special Italian event where it's only placed in special crates buried inside of a sack of spaghetti crate or something.
They're gonna put them in the calzone containers.
It's a 1% crate inside of a 1% crate where you might be able to get this, but don't worry if you do. It comes with a special camo.
I hear what you're saying, but this boat's so weird. I feel like it has to be in a Research
This isn't
Bureau.
just I'll tell you what. I will eat my hat if it's a cold. How about that?
Well, it's not going to be that. We
right,
know
and
better
I'm not going to
that.
be eating any hats this year. I'm pretty safe in that regard.
Your hat collection is safe. Okay, weird boat, weird guns, weird configuration, but it's got speed, which I like.
Oh yeah.
I don't know about these guns. We'll have to wait and see. But
I think you're right though. That's when I was reading about it. I was like, oh, this is like a weird gun Paolo. I think it's that.
Yeah. And that's
so can then you make fail divs with this and 2 Paolos?
You could. Boy, that'd be a great way to lose a game.
Drive around together, with weird Italian music playing in the background.
Yeah. What's funny is I think a lot of people thought of the Regolo line as weird Italian or as weird destroyer gun Paolo, and it didn't work. That wasn't what it was. It wasn't ever really intended to be gun Paolo. This feels like maybe it might be trying to be that. So I guess we'll see. Maybe. I don't know. We'll talk about this one more as it comes out, guys. Let's jump on to the next one. The next one does not have a picture. It's the Italian cruiser Gambia, Tier 7.
Commonwealth.
I'm sorry, I said Italian. A Commonwealth cruiser Gambia. It is a Tier 7 Fiji class cruiser commissioned in 1942 and fought in World War II in the Indian and Pacific Oceans, as well as European waters. From 1943 to 46, she saw service in the Royal New Zealand Navy. And on the 2nd of December 1945, HMNZS Gambia represented New Zealand at the Japanese surrender ceremony in Tokyo Bay. And that's kind of a neat historical thing. Like her sister ship, Fiji, she's armed with a main battery of 4 triple 152 turrets with 1 triple torpedo launcher per side. So very similar to Fiji's layout. Unlike her sister, she does have HE shells and a longer main battery range, giving her a little bit more flexibility than Fiji. As a trade-off, her torpedoes have much lower range, which it couldn't be much lower, so we'll have to see about that, and a long reload. They've got high damage and fast speed that make them a good weapon of last resort. She's also got improved depth charge airstrikes and so on and so on and so on. So that's kind of the general description of Gambia. Now, when we talked about this earlier tonight, you said, wow, a Fiji that has all 4 turrets. I feel like that's something we should talk about. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've had this a few times now where because people like Fiji. Fiji's a good boat at tier 7.
It really is.
A great boat. And they've made other Fijis. I think the first other Fiji we got was the Mysore, the premium tier 6 Commonwealth representative, and it's at tier 6. And they're like, it doesn't. I think that one is like doesn't have torpedoes and had 3x3 turrets instead of 4x3 turrets. And you're like, okay, well, it's a tier 6.
You're like, well,
and
okay,
yeah, you're like, okay, fine. And then when they did the Commonwealth, the Pan American line, I think first, and then the Commonwealth line at tier 7. In the Pan American line, you get the Coronel Bolognese, which I say in that voice, but it's supposed to be, you should do it in Spanish because it's supposed to be Pan American. But like,
sure.
And everybody's like, oh, look, it's a Fiji. Well, no, because that's like a Mysore. It's a 3x3 152. It doesn't have the 4th turret. And then in the Commonwealth line that came out last year, we got the Uganda, which was Uganda, like Royal Canadian, I think. I can't remember. But it's a Commonwealth ship. And again, though, it's a 3x3 152. It's represented in some kind of refit fashion or some versioning where they had removed the 4th turret or that was never built onto it, and probably like an AA mount was put there. Like, oh, we need AA guns, right?
We need room for the basketball court.
Yeah, and so I think it's cool that it's finally actually the same gun configuration as the beloved Fiji, and then on top of that, it has HE, which is cool.
Well, and I'm looking at
so I think it's kind of neat.
I'm looking at the torpedo range. It said much lower. It's only 1 kilometer lower. It's 7 kilometers. So like, that's not a big deal. I feel like the damage here is pretty good. 17,500 damage for the torpedo. 64 knots is great at that range. That's great. So I don't think you're losing a lot of torpedo, but you're getting that HE that you're mentioning. You're keeping the 4 turrets. You got a 15.3 kilometer firing range. Now it's tier 7, so you can't extend that range in the same way that you can with a higher tier ship. But
I think the torpedo range thing feels weird if you're like not a Fiji guy, but you've been playing Uganda, because the Commonwealth cruisers have much longer torpedo range, right?
Does Uganda have a longer one? Yeah.
12.
Is it 12? Wow, okay.
Yeah, like those have much longer torpedo range because that's kind of part of the national flavor on those.
I'm going to peek, but I think you're onto
no,
something.
I'm looking
here.
at it. So
yeah. Oh, okay.
Like Fiji and Bolognese have
8s. Yeah.
But yeah, Uganda has 12. So they don't do as much damage, or they don't reload. They don't reload as often or something. But like anyway, they go further. So I think comparatively to that, that's weird. But compared to Fiji, going to 7s isn't that big a deal.
Right.
I'd be curious.
I don't think that's too bad.
I didn't look at the blog that closely on this one, and now I've lost the thread on that. Did they? Does this have like the glacial turret traverse that the tech line Commonwealth cruisers
22.5 seconds, so it's not as bad as the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So nothing about this is like the Commonwealth tech line.
No, this seems like a really
other than
nice
crawling smoke
version of Fiji. Yeah, 7 kilometer torpedoes. And yeah, let's take a look at the consumables. I didn't run over those. So it's got damage control party with a 40-second reload time. Is it a 40-second reload time on Fiji as well? Let me check.
I got that in front of me.
I can look real quickly. It is an 80-second reload time. I thought that sounded nicer.
Yeah.
So that's.
I saw somebody call that the Ohio heel. That's a message.
Oh no, I'm sorry. That DCP is the same. Sorry.
That's the DCP like off of Massachusetts, right?
Yeah.
Like the fast.
I always look at
damage control.
I always look at damage control party, and I think that it's repair party. That's just me being confused.
Okay, yeah, that's just
so anyway. DCP's fine. Hydroacoustic search, 4 kilometers for ships, 3 kilometers for torpedoes. That's fine. Def AA if you want it, but you'd have to swap out your hydros. You got repair party with an 80-second cooldown, so pretty standard there. Smoke.
Only
short
2 charges.
Yeah. Smoke. Short burst smoke generator.
Oh, so it doesn't have crawling.
So it doesn't have crawling. It's regular smoke, but with the 40-second dispersion.
Whatchamacallit smoke? What is that?
Just
British
the British
destroyer smoke.
Yeah, British destroyer smoke. And then a fighter in the 5th slot, which you can keep all the time. So, when I look at this, I think this looks like a really capable version of Fiji. It's not giving up much, and I feel like it's getting some stuff. Pyro says, so it's a Belfast 43 with no radar, but it has torps. Like,
what it actually is a Belfast.
Right.
It's
Original
close to
tier
Belfast,
7
right? It has HE, it has AP, it adds torpedoes, which Belfast obviously doesn't have, but
it changes the smoke parameters.
It doesn't have radar and all that stuff, but it has like more of that play. Interesting.
Right. Yeah, Pyro, I was thinking of the tier 7 one. When you said 43, I ignored your 43 because I thought 7 was the comparison to make here, but I see what you're saying because that one does have the torpedoes. So, it's kind of in that vein. I think this sounds interesting to me. We'll see how it plays out. Again, as we say, everything's going to come through testing with changes, but...
Yeah, out of all these ships, I mean, there's some interesting stuff here now that we've scratched at it, but like I'm interested in this one. I like that tier.
I like this boat too,
And so like, I like the way those... I wonder if it accelerates like a British cruiser. Like, I don't know. There's some stuff here that'd be cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I look forward to this one. I think it sounds interesting. I don't think the 7-kilometer torps are that big of a deal. I don't go around torping out people in Fiji.
Betaflex says, does that have a destroyer DCP? I don't know if it has a destroyer DCP, but I did just look at Fiji's, which in my build has a 57-second cooldown on the DCP. So that is shorter, right? So it is a pretty healthy DCP, although that's not the kind of thing that, changes the entire character of a ship. It's worth thinking about a little bit there. All right, let's jump down. Our very last one here is the British submarine Seal. They announced this one in another dev blog earlier. I think it's designed largely to be a torpedo submarine, more like they described it, I think, well, we can just go to the dev blog. I think they described it as a sort of more like a destroyer play, right? It says the in-battle Seal will play as a hybrid between normal submarine gameplay and that of a torpedo destroyer. She's well suited at making long-range attacks, basically, rather than some submarines which want to get a lot closer. So that's the deal with Seal, and here is a picture of Seal at the very bottom. This is a new hull. We don't have any ships of this class in the game, so that's kind of cool to see a new hull coming out of the Belgrade office. We've been watching those guys get their feet under them and start to design new things. We got a lot of gray ships in this post, but that's the basics on Seal. Scott, I know we've got our last topic we want to get to, which I think is an interesting one, but any thoughts on Seal before we jump to that?
No, I think it's a bummer that Seal was a mine-laying submarine and they're not... There's no talk about adding mine laying. It doesn't play that way. I think the interesting thing about Seal is the historical nature of the ship. So this ship was deployed by the Royal Navy. It was then captured by the Germans, and it was commissioned, and it was then recommissioned by the Germans. And so that, I think when they made I think they're sitting there going, well, we could put this out again.
Oh, I had the same thought. Oh, this is two boats.
Asset reuse. That's how they got time to have the one guy that works for them now that can make models actually make this model.
Because it's two for the price of one. Because
we could two for the price of one. We can asset reuse it. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they don't do that with it.
In a year,
I would love it a lot
German
more.
Seal,
yeah. I would love it a lot more if it was the first ship that was dual nation, and you could play it either way.
Swap captains around, raise whatever flag you want. That's a really weird concept, but not uninteresting to say the least. Well, all right. Thanks everybody for watching the news today. We are gonna punch out and get back to World of Warships. If you're watching this live on YouTube or on Twitch, hang with us. We're gonna go back and play some more games. If you're watching it with us on YouTube, let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. Scott and I tend to read those, and I respond to as many of them as I can. Sometimes comments get by me, but we do our best to answer as many as we can. But I'd definitely like to know what you think. And of course, if you are here on YouTube and you want to come hang out with us on Twitch, there's no reason not to do it. Check us out, twitch.tv/ClydePlaysLive. Come by and spend a little time with us there. Of course, you can also join the Clyde Plays Discord. Links to all of that stuff are down in the comments below, or in the description down below. Everybody take care, be cool, be nice. Goodbye!
This has been the news on Clyde Plays Live.